Hey guys, this is Wade. Today we're going to be installing a GNR diesel fuel sump kit. Woo! GNR diesel sump comes with a return port, which is different from the other sumps that are out there on the market. I want to explain to you real quickly why the return port on this sump is important. So all of your aftermarket fuel pump systems, your Air Dogs, your Fast, Fuel Lab, they have a return line that is the return fuel coming from those aftermarket fuel systems. That return fuel either goes in, some manufacturers use another draw straw that would go in the tank. That means you would still have to drop the tank to install it. Or they use a baffle that goes in the filler neck, and the return fuel from the aftermarket fuel pump would go into that baffle and go into your filler neck. If you don't want to have to make those cuts or changes on your fuel tank, then that's where you're going to want to purchase a GNR sump. So the GNR sump, again, both ports here, it's suction and return side. The return fuel flows through this port and it goes up and it goes away from the suction side, so you don't have a cavitation close to that sump that would aerate your fuel that goes into the aftermarket fuel pump. This is a clamp in design. It's got a orientation part on the clamp that keeps it going, that orients it one direction to where you can't mess your bolts up. It's all machined aluminum. It's got the logo on the bottom. There is an O-ring that comes with the kit as well for sealing. Inside of your kit, you will receive all of the fittings that you need as well. They are 8 AN fittings and then 1/2-inch pipe on the sump itself. GNR sends you thread tape for this. We recommend that you use the thread tape on the fittings going into the sump. I'll show you more on that. You're going to get a pipe plug for the bottom of that. The pipe plug in these sumps is very helpful if you have to drain your tank, if you happen to get a load of water or something like that. Really easy to drain the tank, which is something that you don't have on stock tank. And you're going to get the bolts for the sump. These bolts have a copper crush washer on them, or a copper sealing washer. The copper sealing washer is going to create a seal so you don't have a leak from the sump at the bolt holes. Now, as well, GNR includes the hole saw with the sump kit, which is a very nice addition. Our installation today is going to be a little bit different. We had a spare tank here at the shop out of a later model Dodge. We're going to show you some things that you could run into inside of the installation, and we're going to be able to show you a more clear-cut view of the sump once it's installed. So the first thing that we're going to do before we get started, we are going to take our return pipe out, and the return pipe, and I'll show you in a second, is only hand tight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the vise. I'm going to put it in a set of soft jaws, and I am going to thread tape both of the fittings that go into the bottom of the sump. Again, make sure that you thread tape these fittings. Do not use too much thread tape and get thread tape inside of the bottom of the sump. That'll just be a contaminant that goes inside the tank that can be picked up in your fuel pump and do damage. So I'm going to get these thread taped, and then we'll get ready to cut our hole. I have both of my 8 fittings in the bottom of the GNR sump. Now we're going to put the return pipe in. We're just going to thread this in hand tight. No thread tape on this. This is going to, we don't want thread tape on that at all, because there's not going to be any real pressure there for leakage. The thread tape on these fittings, again, I think I forgot to mention that GNR includes thread tape inside of this kit. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take the O-ring that comes with our kit and put it in the recessed slot in the bottom of the sump, and we'll get that installed. So that's pretty much got our sump ready to go. The clamp that goes with this can only go on one way for the bolt holes to line up correctly. So you're gonna wanna kind of take get an idea of how that's gonna go before you go to install this in the truck. For us, it's gonna be very easy because we've got the tank out here on the table, but inside the truck, you're gonna wanna make sure before you get that inside the tank that you know how the clamp is supposed to go and how it lays inside of there. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and get ready to do our tank. Oh, also the plug. You wanna make sure that you get the plug in the bottom of the sump before you install it. So now we're gonna talk just a little bit about the tank. The good thing about the cross section of this tank was you're able to look inside of there, and I'm able to show you all what you're gonna run into when you're drilling the hole inside this tank. So when you do this blindly, maybe you've got a better idea. Again, this is a Dodge tank. Okay, so the tank is going forward this way. All right, so with your fuel module in these later model Dodges, this is out of an 06. There's a raise there for orienting. There's a raised surface here for orienting the fuel module inside of there. But you can also see that the fuel module float is in there. See how that's on the other side of the tank? You're going to want to make sure that when you orient your sump, you don't want the sump tower, the return tower, to hit that float inside of the tank. If it hits that float, the float's not going to go all the way down. There's a wave brake inside of here. You can see that that Swiss cheese looking panel back there. That's kind of a wave brake that's in there. You don't want to take this back too far and get on the other side of that. You're not going to get fuel fast enough. Plus you can hit it when you hole saw through it. Then the whole deal is chooched there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this sending unit out so we can kind of give you a look of the tank without any hindrance. Gotta love Dodge sending units. All right, now here's the inside of the tank. When you're looking at this from the outside, you don't get to see this, but knowing where the sending unit is going to be, knowing if there's any indentions in the tank for things like these wave brakes and whatnot, is going to go a long way in making sure that you get the sump located in the right spot. Now, I'm going to show you the other side of the tank. The back side of this tank, which is not where the sump holes go, but it has raised writing here. You cannot drill your sump hole where there's any raised writing or stamping. If you do that, the sump will not seal. Very important, don't put the sump or drill the hole where there's any raised writing or raised surfaces. It needs to be a nice, flat, smooth surface where you install the sump. On this tank, we're going to want our sump between the sending unit and this wave brake on the bottom of the tank. You can see that those two pieces, there's an indentation here for where the sump cup was. Can you see that, Adam? Okay. And then the two holes that have the standard for the wave brake. So we're going to go right between the two and we're going to punch the hole for the sump. G&R includes the 2 1/4 inch hole saw with this. And the good thing about G&R sending you the hole saw, you don't have to go buy a hole saw, but if you're like me, you might have to go buy a battery for your cordless tools. So now we've got those technical difficulties solved. I know where I want my sump. I've gone to a nice flat surface here, so I'm going to go ahead and punch my hole. Now, one thing that you might be thinking about when this, I've got fuel in my tank, I try to lower this, what am I going to do to get the fuel out of it? When you punch the pilot hole with this sump, or with the hole saw, this will allow the fuel to drain. You can let the fuel drain and once you get your pilot hole done, you can kind of you can just walk away from it and let the fuel drain out of it, and I'll show you that here. All right, so that'll let our fuel drain there with our pilot hole. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this. All right, we've got our hole in the bottom of our tank for our sump. one thing I want to do here is I want to take it just a second. I want to turn the tank to the side. Of course, obviously this is going to be in your truck, so you're not going to have this, but I want to set this down, and you can see where all of the shreds of plastic from the hole saw when it fell against that side. When you do this, all of it is going to be right here at the very bottom when you immediately cut the hole. So take your hand in there, a rag or something, and try to get as many of those shards of plastic down and out as you can. You do not want that to stay in your tank. Again, that will make it to your fuel injection system and can cause you some damage. So now that we've talked about that and showed that, let's show you how to get the GNR clamp in. Now, the GNR clamp only goes on the sump itself one way, and I'm going to show you that right here. So actually, I had it the wrong way there. Flip it over. So as you can see, with the locating hole there, that it only goes one way. All right, so you've got to remember that when you go to start working on putting your clamp inside the tank. So I know that I want this surface up. So for this surface to be up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working with the non-notch side to get it inside of the tank here, okay? So here we go. I just pushed in one side and then the other side will go in. I'll let Adam show you that, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it upwards, and when you roll it upwards, and I'm cheating here, but I'm not going to cheat, I'm not going to put my hand in there. When you roll it upwards, the clamp goes in fine. Now you can see where right there, mine actually went right underneath of that wave brake. So you can kind of see how my hand is. This is how your clamp is. I'm going to go ahead and lay the tank down, and I'm going to let Adam reposition the camera so you can kind of get a shot on that. All right. Well, we've got our clamp in. We're underneath the tank here. We've got our clamp inside. We've got it going the right direction. We're ready to install our sump. You want to make sure that on your bolts that you've got both of the copper sealing washers on each bolt, one on each bolt. So now let's go ahead and get our sump in. I'm going to take one bolt with me as I go here. Make sure that the sump is clean and you don't have any contaminants that are on the sump. So we're going to go ahead and put the return pipe through your locating hole. Once the return pipe is through your locating hole, you're halfway there. Then we'll just go ahead and take our bolt. Onto the clamp. Until we get traction, so you can see the bolt coming through there. Your next bolt. With this return pipe there, you're pretty much close enough that you can work with the bolts, getting it where you want it to, getting the sump where you want it. So this is 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run these up just a little bit until we start to bring this in. There is a lip on the sump, and that lip will go inside of the 2 1/4 inch hole that you have cut in the tank. That will help to seal the sump as well. Your clamp is threaded, so you're going to want to move both of your bolts the same rate or you'll pull it. You won't get a good seal because you'll pull it one side down too fast. So once I know that I've got my sump inside of the hole, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of snug this. Do not over tighten it. 10 foot-pounds is going to be the torque spec on this. So we'll grab a torque wrench real quick and we will torque it down. Taking both bolts at the same pace. You just want to use good common sense here. Don't over tighten it. I got Hunter back here assisting me. Hunter is, okay, that's good. Hunter has got the GNR line up on eBay and Amazon for us. Okay, we want to show this shot because this shows the importance of knowing what is inside of your tank when you go to do this. So our wave brake here, or the little slosh managing window, or whatever the technical term for this thing is, we were able to slide that clamp right underneath of that. That doesn't hurt anything, that doesn't hurt our flow inside of the sump. GNR's return pipe, remember, you're going to have return fuel that's going to come out of this, and it's just going to flow down. It's not going to be much pressure on it, so that keeps it from going inside of the bowl and cavitating and causing you more fuel aeration. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the tank over, okay, so you can actually see the sump. Is that a good spot there, Adam? Okay, so we tightened everything down. Again, do not over tighten it. Just use your good common sense. If you want to use a torque wrench, 10 foot-pounds, take it to 10. All right, now, you've got to remember which side of this is return and which side of this is suction, because if you put your suction side on the return side, you're going to have a big fuel problem when you get to about 1/4 of a tank. So make sure that you have remembered which side of this is going to be the return side on the sump itself. And on this sump, it is going to be the lower side, so it's going to be the left side here on the diesel side, so that's going to be the return. GNR, you get the new fittings that come inside of the kit. They're 1/2-inch push-to-locks. The nice thing about these is these are swivel. That's another step that GNR went to engineering this kit. These are swivel push-to-lock kits, so you can go ahead and push your hose up on these and still be able to tighten them down onto the thing here. So let me install these hoses real quick here for us. All right, so I've got both of my fittings on my hoses, and I'm just going to put those on there and show you what this looks like with both your return side, which your return side is the side going on this sump. It was the side that's closest to the word diesel on the sump, and the suction side was top or right side here and closest to the GNR. So that's what it looks like with both the hoses, and we would route those up to our pump and keep them together and just route them out of the way. So this is the installation of the GNR sump. A little bit different doing it this way. The important things that we wanted to show you was what was in your tank contamination wise, and also what was inside of your tank that could affect where you need to put your sump. Those are two things that you're definitely going to want to take into consideration when you're doing this, or if you have any questions and you don't feel confident of just punching a hole in your tank. So if you have a question about this installation or any of our other installations, please give us a call, like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.